Now, today's a very special anniversary in world space history in which Russia played a very big role, and accordingly we're devoting then a special part of the programme about the next 10 minutes to the fact that 55 years ago, Yuri Gagarin left the world in awe by becoming the first person in history to journey into space.
Говорит Москва, говорит Москва. Работают все радиостанции Советского Союза. Передаем сообщение ТАСС о первом в мире полете человека в космическое пространство.
Despite back then the Soviet authorities' claims that that journey, that epic journey, was entirely smooth, seems the flight was actually riddled behind the scenes with drama on its return to Earth. First off, on seeing flames as he re-entered the atmosphere, Gagarin feared the worst at one point and said goodbye to his colleagues. Of course, these days we know that's a common sight for space travellers, but this was unknown territory. Of course, also as well, it's been reported 2 days before that historic journey, Gagarin had his worries, and he wrote to his wife about it in a personal letter.
My sweet and beloved Valichka, please take care of our girls. Love them like I do. Please raise them not to be little princesses or mama's girls, but as real people who won't be afraid of the ups and downs of life. As for your personal life, settle it in the way your heart tells you, as you see fit. I'm not imposing any obligations on you, and I don't think I have a right to do that. This letter is turning out to be too mournful. I hope in a few days we'll be together again and we'll be very happy. Valichka, please don't forget my parents, and if you have the means, help them out. Send them my love, and may they forgive me for keeping them in the dark. They were not supposed to know anything. Well, that seems to be all. Goodbye, my dears. I hug you all closely and kiss you.
Despite his concerns, of course, that flight was a success and Gagarin became an instant superstar and then embarked on a victory tour around the world. So well known back then, but despite all that newfound fame, Gagarin nonetheless kept his feet on the ground. He was pretty modest about his big achievement. In fact, later say he's actually pretty embarrassed that his flight was so short compared to the flights that followed.
Очень рад тому, что честь выполнить этот первый космический полет выпала мне. Но мне как-то неудобно сейчас даже перед моими друзьями в том, что этот полет продолжался всего час 48 минут. Но это, естественно, конечно, было только начало, только разведка космоса.
The Soviet cosmonaut also found his way into pop culture too. Gagarin's smiling face was used on stamps all across the world, and the image of him in his space helmet is still an inspiration today for anything from songs to T-shirts. Another little snippet of info here. Instead of the formal command Gagarin was supposed to utter at takeoff, instead he went for something more colloquial. Поехали! In Russian that means let's go. Pretty down to earth. The phrase has been picked up around the world to mark now this big anniversary.
Hi, my name's Tim from Australia. Поехали! Поехали!
Hello from Bali. Поехали!
NASA's Sean Fuller believes humanity's achievements in space were only made possible by Yuri Gagarin's maiden flight way back then, April the 12th, 1961.
Well, as we all know, Yuri Gagarin was the first human into space, and it really opened the door for space exploration. You know, his first flight of 108 minutes is now leading today to the International Space Station. We have crews living on board, and for the last 15 years, we've had humans occupying an outpost. It all started on that day in April 12th of 1961. 55 years ago, you really couldn't predict what today's going to look like, and I'm sure 55 years from now, it's going to look quite a bit different, too. I certainly see as we expand beyond a continued human presence much farther out into the solar system. Probably like we have the ISS orbiting now, we have crews exchanging there and have had a presence for many years. I could see very similar on Mars, where we have crews that are living there for perhaps a few years at a time and then rotate back to Earth.
Of course, as is nearly always the case behind every hero, there's also that unsung team who made it all happen behind the scenes. Soviet authorities kept hidden the identity of one guy called Sergei Korolev. He's the mastermind of rocket know-how, Mr. Korolev, until his death. Murat Gazdiev spoke to the scientist's daughter.
Moscow, London, New Delhi, crowds and adoration everywhere he went. After all, the first man in space, that's one heck of a title. But while Yuri Gagarin basked in glory, hundreds that made his achievement possible were left in the shadows, one of which was Sergei Korolev, the head of the Soviet space program. His identity was kept a secret. He was only known as the chief designer.
Once my father went to a concert in honor of Gagarin's flight. When he got to the front rows, he was stopped and told that they were only for those who worked in the space program. There was nothing he could say.
It was Korolev who designed the world's first intercontinental ballistic missile. He who sent the first probe to the moon, put the first satellite, first man and woman into orbit. He who engineered the first spacewalk.
Because of all the secrecy, my father missed out on the Nobel Prize twice. When the Nobel Committee asked for the name of the man who designed Sputnik, Khrushchev said that it was made by all of the USSR's people.
All or not, there was certainly no shortage of volunteers to be the first cosmonaut.
Initially, there were 40 of us, and the requirements were merciless.
Victor lasted until the final 8.
Of course there was jealousy, but what could you do? It was not to be.
And then there were 2.
Gagarin stayed the same even after the flight. He was truly the best of us, and his only rival was Titov.
German Titov, Gagarin's backup. There are only theories as to why Yuri won, whether it was his charming smile, the fact that his parents were peasants, or even just because of his name.
When Nikita Khrushchev was given the candidates' names, he exclaimed, "What sort of a name is German?"
No need to feel sorry. Titov would go on to set multiple records in space, him and many others. Murat Gazdiev, RT.
That's the man. What about the hardware? Well, the rocket that took Gagarin into space has, of course, been modified over the years, but the concept's pretty much the same as it used to be. It's used today to take astronauts and cosmonauts up into space to the International Space Station from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. It's had a name change, too, over the years. That Soviet spacecraft's now known as the Soyuz.
Korolev would have been proud. Soyuz was his brainchild, his swan song. The way we're modernizing it, bringing it closer to perfection, we're basically finishing his job.
And one final thought as people remember and celebrate over my shoulder there, as you can see, to mark the 55th anniversary of Gagarin's journey. This has been made. 2 of his fans in Russia have created a giant frozen lake portrait, so big that he used GPS to track it. It's about 500 meters wide, that. Clever stuff. Serious matters coming up. A look into fresh allegations of abuse by Israeli security forces against Palestinian youngsters. One of the stories right after this break.